Tom Trento, Director of the United West, with a special edition, Enemies of the State, entitled Marxist Jihad in Michigan. Indeed, the political craziness going on in Michigan resulted in an investigative expose by the United West, along with investigative journalist Laura Loomer. Laura, welcome to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
You were with us and you led the investigation in Michigan. We have a lot to tell the folks. Give us a little tease as to what they're going to see.
Well, you're going to find out how Marxists on the ground who are working with the Democratic Party are now working with Sharia-compliant individuals to Islamify the state of Michigan.
A couple of years ago, the United West got involved with Sharia Crimestoppers, an amazing organization doing educational work in the state of Michigan, training law enforcement on Islamic Jihad and related issues. And through our involvement with them, they made us aware of this unique campaign that's going on now for the governor of the state of Michigan by this Muslim individual who's the so-called perfect man, according to the major media outlets, Abdulrahman Mohamed El-Sayed. But as we dug a little more deeply, we saw that there was Sharia compliance personally. There was a platform committed to Karl Marx's Das Kapital. We saw involvement with individuals that had ties to terrorism. We needed a United West investigative expose. And we went to our dear friend Laura Loomer, investigative journalist, to lead the efforts. Laura, tell us what it was like when you got into Dearborn, Hamtramck, and the metro areas of Detroit.
I didn't feel like I was in America anymore. Honestly, I've traveled to the Middle East. I've traveled with you to the Middle East, and I felt like when I was walking through the streets of Hamtramck, walking past the mosque, walking past the grocery store, I felt like I was in the Middle East.
What happened next?
I decided that I needed to confront the candidate himself. I decided to find Abdul El-Syed, and I attended one of his campaign events in Michigan, and I confronted him. And I asked him about his own practice of Sharia law and how he reconciles the difference between his own personal Sharia and these Marxist political talking points, which completely contradict and go against what he stands for as a devout Muslim.
It was fascinating video. We had a few people there taping it. Let's take a look at that right now.
So I just had a question for you. I just wanted to know how you reconcile your own personal practice of Islamic law with your Marxist socialist political platform that directly contradicts tenets within Islamic law.
My faith is about what I choose to do with my life, right? I think that's what faith is. It's a choice that people make about how they live their life. Don't drink, for example, doesn't mean I want to take away your ability to choose to do that. So, for me, it's about what kind of society do you want to build in a pluralistic, beautiful country like ours. And it's not about trying to enforce one's own personal choices, because I think what's beautiful about our country is everybody gets to make their own personal choices. So I choose my own faith, and you choose yours, and or none at all, and that's a beautiful thing.
Right, but under Islam, for example, and
so
I'm just asking you a question. It's a serious question because you're running and you're campaigning on issues of LGBTQ. We have a First Amendment, and anybody is allowed to.
I've answered my question.
You didn't answer the question because under Islam, for example, gays are punished by death.
I don't know that that's true.
Gays are stoned, so gays are not allowed to enter buildings in the Middle East.
I don't know. Well, what people do in the Middle East has nothing to do with what
But
Islam
you yourself
is.
said that you are a Sharia compliant Muslim.
I didn't say that.
Well, you said that your head touches the floor 34 times a day.
I choose to pray.
We're done.
Right.
And I think we're done.
Well, as you can see, Abdul El-Syed dodged my questions and ran away from me and wouldn't be forthcoming about Sharia. So I decided to take my questions to the experts themselves. I met up with Philip Haney, who is a founding member of the Department of Homeland Security, and he provided me with excellent information about Sharia and how it's being utilized in the Michigan gubernatorial race.
My name is Philip Haney. I'm a founding member of the Department of Homeland Security, which was started in March of 2003. I'm a recognized subject matter expert in the global Islamic movement and the strategy and tactics of the Muslim Brotherhood operating here in the United States. I retired from Customs and Border Protection on the 31st of July 2015, and since then I've been traveling around the country talking about sovereignty, our right to choose the form of government we live under, and the Constitution, and how the Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamic groups are seeking to undermine our sovereignty and replace it with Sharia law.
How is Abdul El-Sayed connected to the Muslim Brotherhood?
Well, his first connection was as vice president of the Muslim Students Association at the University of Michigan. That chapter of the MSA is known as one of the oldest in America. The MSA was the first Muslim Brotherhood front group created in America in the middle 1960s, and it is the parent of now the largest Muslim Brotherhood front group in the country, Islamic Society of North America. So starting with the MSA Vice Presidency during his college career, he was recently endorsed by Linda Sarsour, who essentially is the face of the Islamic Society of North America, and she endorsed him at their annual national convention back in July of 2017.
Hey guys, Laura Loomer here. I'm about to show you the creepiest and the scariest endorsement for governor that was caught on camera that you'll ever see in your life. Check it out.
When I think about building power, I think about brothers like El-Syed, who is in this room today, who is running to be the first Muslim governor of the state of Michigan. He can't, sisters and brothers, he's a wonderful brother. He's an inspiring brother. He is well qualified to be the next governor of Michigan, but he can't do that without you. That brother does, not only does he need your mashallah and bismillah and dua, he needs your money. And to my favorite person in this room, because that's mutual, is Imam Siraj Wahaj, who has been a mentor, a motivator, an encourager of mine, someone who has taught me to speak truth to power and not worry about the consequences, someone who has taught me that we are on this earth to please Allah and only Allah, that we are not here to please any man or woman on this earth. So I'm grateful to you, Imam Siraj, and you might think this is weird, but every once in a while when I get into that deep, dark place, Imam Siraj comes and talks to me, and that he helps me to emerge out of those spaces. So I'm grateful to you, Imam Siraj. May Allah bless you and protect you and keep you for a long time for our community, because we need you now more than ever.
As you can see, there's some pretty scary and disturbing things going on in Linda Sarsour's head. But what's even more disturbing and scarier than that is the fact that Abdul El-Sayed, who's currently running to become the first Muslim governor of Michigan, didn't distance himself from Sarsour, even after she expressed admiration and support for Siraj Wahaj, who was a co-conspirator in the 1993 attempt to blow up the World Trade Center in New York. Siraj once said, "It's my duty and our duty as Muslims to replace the United States Constitution with the Quran." But wait, there's more. What's even more disturbing than that is the fact that El-Syed brought Linda Sarsour on to be his de facto campaign manager. Yes, you heard that correctly. His de facto campaign manager.
So he's endorsed by the ISNA, major front group for the Muslim Brotherhood. He himself was vice president of another major front group for the Muslim Brotherhood, and his father-in-law is currently vice president of the Council on American Islamic Relations, another third front group for the Muslim Brotherhood. So everywhere you turn, Abdul El-Sayed is connected directly with the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States.
All right, your interview with Philip Haney is amazing. He's a very unique individual. The United West knows him for over 10 years. He primarily was stationed at the Atlanta airport, and if somebody got stopped at passport control, he would be the individual they went to. He was an expert in profiling where you came from, what Islamic clan, what terrorist organization you can belong to. And sadly, he was shut down by the Obama administration. He became an official whistleblower before Congress, and as we know, has written the book, See Something, Say Nothing. So your interview is going extremely well. Let's get back to it.
Is there a precedent of the Muslim Brotherhood using the American political system to push Islam to influence American culture or Western civilization?
Yes, there is. That's a great question. I call it saturation, like water coming into a sponge. And the best recent example is the one we know of called the Arab Spring, which was a social political movement initially driven by the young people in Egypt. And when it reached a certain momentum, the Muslim Brotherhood literally came in and co-opted the whole political movement and redefined it as an Islamic movement for the sake of implementing Sharia law in Egypt. And they actually did it.
لكن الإمام البنا رحمة الله عليه قال لهم لا بل القرآن دستورنا بل القرآن دستورنا كان وسيبقى سيظل القرآن دستورنا القرآن دستورنا والرسول زعيمنا والجهاد سبيلنا والموت في سبيل الله أسمى أمانينا وفوق كل ذلك الله غايتنا الشريعة ثم الشريعة ثم الشريعة.
But there was a popular revolt. 30 million people rose up simultaneously and pushed Morsi out of the position as the leader of Egypt and put him in prison, along with the entire leadership of the Muslim Brotherhood. In co-opting that movement, they essentially overplayed their hand, and they showed to the whole world exactly what their intention was all along. The Arab Spring never was actually a social, secular political movement. It always was about implementing Sharia law.
So you just gave a global example. Are there any examples of the Muslim Brotherhood currently operating within the United States in an attempt to influence our political system?
Yes, well, they are Muslim Brotherhood. Let's start with CAIR, Council on American-Islamic Relations. Their office is literally a block, maybe two at the most, from the U.S. Capitol. And they actually have access to members of Congress and Senate on the Hill. And you say, well, shouldn't they have access? Well, the problem is that more than 10 years ago, or about 10 years ago, it was proven irrefutably in federal court under the Department of Justice that groups like CAIR and ISNA and the Muslim students and other Muslim Brotherhood front groups were irrefutably tied to support of Hamas. So there you have proven individuals, leaders of organizations, in federal court for more than 10 years that are literally walking up and down the halls of Congress, influencing members who are on committees either to vote for or against legislation that either favors the Muslim community and or would be detrimental in their worldview. So it's happening right in front of our eyes, and the leadership in the federal government, elected and law enforcement, have known this for more than 10 years. It's not a fact, it's not a problem that they don't know it. They do know it. That in itself is an evidence of influence, isn't it? To be able to continue operating openly when it's already been proven in federal court that they're tied to a globally designated terrorist organization.
As you were going through this wonderful interview with Philip Haney, really one of the nation's top experts, subject matter experts, qualified, what were your feelings about his nature and his demeanor?
Well, I was shocked, really, because it was my first time meeting Philip in Michigan, and when I first saw him, I would never have suspected that this guy had the amount of knowledge in his head that he does about Islamic terrorism, how to hunt terrorists down, how to profile terrorists, and I mean, the man's incredible. And when you see him, he just looks so innocent, right? But knowing that he's sitting across from you and profiling you and examining you, and he's an expert in speech patterns, all of these things, it was just such an honor working with him, really, because I learned so much, and his perspective is invaluable.
Hey, very good job, Laura, in interviewing one of America's top subject matter experts. What is the summation of Philip Haney's conclusion?
Well, Mr. Haney's conclusion was very factual, it's very analytical, and ultimately what he concluded is that Abdul El-Sayed is personally Sharia compliant, and he's running to become the first Muslim governor of Michigan under a socialist Marxist political platform, right? I mean, it's outrageous. It's this combination of Marxism and Sharia to fundamentally transform Michigan as a state, which, you know, if you look at the individuals who he's working with, his imperfect team, you know, they're spread out all across the country, right? So this is an attempt to implement civilization jihad all across America.
There are plenty of publicly available connections that prove that Abdul El-Syed is, let's just say, an active member of these Muslim Brotherhood front groups.
الجهاد سبيلنا والموت في سبيل الله أسمى أمانينا وفوق كل ذلك الله غايتنا الشريعة ثم الشريعة ثم الشريعة ولا خير في هذه الأمة ابشروا واطمئنوا فإن هذا الشعب لن يرضى عن مكتوب لا يعبر عن حقيقة ومعنى ومبنى الشريعة الإسلامية نصا وتطبيقا وبرنامجا لن يرضى بغير ذلك.
So Laura, in addition to sitting down with Philip Haney, you were able to sit down with Richard Manasiri, the head of Sharia Crimestoppers, the guy who knows Marxist Jihad in Michigan like no other person.
Yeah, it was a fascinating interview, and it was great speaking and collaborating with Richard on the ground in Michigan, because being a native of Michigan, he's able to see how this red-green alliance between these Sharia-compliant Muslims and the Marxists on the left are starting to transform his community in the state of Michigan. Thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name's Dick Manasiri. I'm a proud father and grandfather, resident of Michigan, and co-founder of Sharia Crimestoppers. Sharia Crimestoppers is an organization that is trying to resurrect training for local law enforcement so they can do their job. Local law enforcement wants to do their job, but they've had no training in topics like Sharia, jihad, sedition, honor violence, pedophilia, etc., related to the Sharia community in Michigan. So one of our goals across the country is to resurrect the training which was removed under the Obama administration, so local law enforcement can understand that some parts of Sharia are criminal.
When you look at Abdul El-Sayed as a candidate, he's been positioned as a perfect man. How does a perfect man have such an imperfect team?
Well, it's interesting. Abdul has been identified by some people as Obama too. If you think about it, for some people, Obama was approaching sainthood in what he was trying to do. When you peel the onion, you find that his associations were very, very troublesome. So now we go to Abdul. Abdul's education was paid for by the Soros family. Paul and Dorothy Soros Foundation paid for his education. He's been endorsed by some really questionable people like Michael Moore and the woman that won the election in New York. I believe her name is Alexandra.
Hey friends, Abdul here. I'm with my good friend and mentor, Alexandria.
Hi guys, how are you? So excited to be here in Michigan. We are connecting the dots between the Bronx and Flint and Queens and Detroit because all of our issues are the same issues.
And what would you tell our friends on Facebook Live about what we need to do in the next 10 days?
All right, here's what it is, folks. The primary election is August 7th in Michigan, which means that we need to leave it all on the field between now and then.
These are people that are talking about a new wing, a far left wing to the Democratic Party. Abdul is on record saying he's left of left. He is probably left of Bernie Sanders, and he is getting support, and I think people should take him very seriously because he has a young millennial support like Bernie did, and he's even left of them. So he is part of the message, even on national television, about people of color redefining the Democratic Party. Well, you know, hopefully you have principles, you have things we can identify with, not just the color of your skin. Unfortunately, if you belong to a certain group, either a gay group or a black group or you are identified as somehow, you adopt all of their values and you put that together, when in fact, we need to understand its principles. So the team that he's assembled that support him includes the Muslim Brotherhood, his father-in-law, Dawood Walid, CAIR. So we've got a mixture of some pretty bad characters, but only if you care about things like personal safety. If you care more about diversity, he is perfect. If you have diversity at all costs, then you don't even worry about it. If you're concerned, however, about the way diversity in its extremes can lead to unsafe environments for you and your family, then he's surrounded himself with a diversity at all costs team, and some people think that's a major detriment to our own personal safety.
Does he really support diversity, though? Because if you look at some of the candidates who he's surrounded himself with, and you mentioned Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is a self-proclaimed socialist running in New York. You look at Linda Sarsour, you look at Keith Ellison, and the individuals who have endorsed him at CAIR. All of these individuals have one thing in common, right? Their perpetual hatred for the state of Israel and the anti-Semitism and Jew hatred that they spout.
I think you've nailed it. They are haters in their own way. Israel is a major target for their hatred. They've been, it's part of their persona to come out and rally people. So you've got all of the student animosity towards Jews on American campuses. You've got the Muslim Student Association generating hatred for Jews.
Tell everyone about the flag.
So this is the Palestinian flag. In any other context, it would just be a national flag, but this is a very political flag. The reason why it's a very political flag is because Palestinians don't have a country to call their own. We're denied entry into our own country. There are millions of refugees scattered all around the world from 1948 and from 1967, different times, and we're trying to end it. It's 70 years ongoing.
What do you think about the U.S. Embassy being in Jerusalem?
I think it's just a continuation of a policy that's existed for a long time, which is to deny Palestinians their natural rights to a capital.
What about Abdul? So that's the event
Right.
you're here at today.
Right.
You're waving this Palestinian flag at the Abdul event.
Right.
So tell me about Abdul.
Abdul would be facing some legislation with regards to Palestine. There has been attempts by right-wing factions within political arenas in Michigan to advance a bill called the anti-BDS bill, which would prevent normal people from not buying products from Israel, from a land that occupies and kills.
What message, by waving the flag at this Abdul rally today, what message are you trying to spread?
We're sending a message clearly to the Israel lobby in the United States that preventing us from our First Amendment rights to boycott the state of Israel for its crimes against humanity with regards to Palestinians is a big no.
So you are supporting Abdul on August 7th?
Absolutely, yes.
But I want to extend that. Not only are they haters of Israel, they're haters of America. Most of these people think the U.S. Constitution is a flawed document. It's a document, it's a racist document. And so unfortunately, Abdul has surrounded himself with people on his imperfect team that have been promoting anti-Americanism as well as anti-Israel.
How should the Jewish and the Christian, the atheist, right, the non-religious voters in Michigan feel about possibly having a Muslim governor?
To do any kind of research, you would understand that Islam is a theocracy. It is a political movement with a veneer of religion. And so the political movement, by the way, happens to be totalitarian. So if it's totalitarian, in a sense, Islam, the left and Islam share this mentality that there's an elite group of people who can tell everybody else how to behave, and that we can all coexist because there's an elite group of people who in a totalitarian way can tell us what to do. Well, that means that you and I will have less free speech. You and I would not be able to have this interview probably if the regime of Abdul, maybe the second or third year, they would come after people like us because we're having a conversation. We are critical of Islam. Well, that's not acceptable. And so Jewish people are an early target of Islam from the very beginning, from 622, and Christians from 628. War was declared against the Jews and the Christians. Those are the people of the book. So the Quran talks about the people of the book. That's the enemy. And to the extent that Sharia needs to take over the world, people who follow the book, Old Testament or New Testament, are in fact the enemy, and the hatred there is visible. It's not really that much below the surface.
Excellent work, Laura, excellent work. And look, ladies and gentlemen, what we have is Marxist Jihad in Michigan, and as Laura has indicated in this investigation, and with 5 or 10 people in Michigan working with us, with the United West team, the conclusion is very simple. Abdulrahman Mohamed El-Sayed and his imperfect team, as you said, Laura, their desire is to revolutionize the state of Michigan and remake it into some third world country in an amazing fashion. It's almost beyond belief. Well, stay tuned. We have much more for you in further segments. Laura, thank you for your amazing work. And
Thank you.
You want to rock and roll with us again sometime?
Of course,
All right.
of course.
We'll do it. Stay tuned, folks. All right, there you have our investigative expose, which has documented this bizarre coalition of the hard left, the Marxist socialist left, joining together with the green axis, Islamic theocratic superiority supremacy. This coalition seeks to revolutionize the economic stability of the state of Michigan. It seeks to gain more control over private property, enlarge the government, open up the state to complete open borders and sanctuary status of immigrants from all over the world, in fact, remake the state of Michigan. It also seeks to join this red-green coalition together to help destabilize Israel in the Middle East and advance Islamic superiority in the Middle East. All of this has to come under consideration by the good voters in Michigan. Do you want your 101-year-old state, founded on Judeo-Christian principles, to continue along in a capitalistic Judeo-Christian direction? Or do you want to hand over your beautiful state, the Wolverine state, to those hell-bent on destroying it, remaking it in such a way that no one who loved Michigan would ever want to live there again? The vote is all yours in August 2018.